What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Freddy and Friends. And as promised, bringing back some of my drum bros so you guys can nerd out a little bit. Today's guest, someone I really, really respect, technical wizard, has played with everybody, and just an all-around cool dude, Louie Palmer.
Thank you for having me.
What's up, my man?
It's good to be here.
Welcome back to Los Angeles.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be back. I was away for a couple of years in Vegas and moved back about a month ago and, missed it a lot and missed the weather.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great to be back. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Tell me about Vegas, though. Were you connecting with it? Were you...
I mean, it was interesting. It was a nice change of pace. I spent, I think, about 11, 12 years in LA grinding.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, we weren't married at the time, but we got married in Vegas.
Okay.
And
By Elvis?
No. But, we just fancied a change. So we moved there and, you can get like a nice big house for the same money as a apartment in the city and fancied a change of pace and loved it for a while. And, the heat didn't bother me too much the first year, but the second year was tough. We had a lot of 120 days
August
in a row. Yeah. Oh. And which was even unusual for Vegas. I mean, 120 is tops, but they had a lot of those days that year.
Wow.
And, just missed LA, missed the pace of life. I feel like it's an interesting thing to discuss with people. I feel like you're either a city person or you're not. And I grew up not in London, but only 30 minutes south and spent my entire life, certainly my teenage years and my working years in my 20s, in and out of London, 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah. So kind of considered myself a Londoner. Yeah. And I just feel like I miss the city thing. Like the people are different. The energy's different. The quality of stuff is different because the cities attract the best people at everything. But also, whether you're rich or poor, successful or not, you have to be a certain type of person to survive in a city. And 100%. I think that brings like a certain thing.
Exactly.
And that was not there in Vegas at all. And I thought that maybe Vegas would be interesting because the suburbs are very suburban, but you still have world-class...
There's action.
And action,
There's
exactly.
Action there, yeah.
But there wasn't much spillover back into the suburbs. It was as if the Strip did not exist. And so we would go to the Strip. I really loved it, a couple times a week and for dinners and stuff. It was great. But the rest of the time I was just a little bored. And, I had a nicer studio there. I had 2 kits set up and I just missed LA.
Yeah, no, I get it. I've gone through the same thing over the years and it's a great place. The energy's amazing, and the people you meet and can work with and, just hang out with they're second to none.
Yeah.
I think you made the right move. So we're glad to have you back.
Thanks. Yeah.
So you and I met, well, I mean, I've seen you online for years, right? We finally got to meet in Vegas, actually at the Vegas Drum Show, which is a great show. Yeah. You were the headlining clinician. I did a little masterclass there as well. And we got to talking, and I knew I liked you. I'll admit, I had a fantasy that you were the son of Carl Palmer.
Lots of people think that, yeah.
For a long time. And then I was kind of disappointed that you weren't, but I'll live.
I've had that for years. And even when I was at school, because my dad is a drummer.
No shit.
Yeah. And he's a great drummer. And
so you've heard this before. Wow.
He was a professional drummer back in the day and continued throughout my childhood and teenage years to gig in his spare time. But the parents at my school didn't believe him when he's like, or me rather, I'm not my dad's not Carl Palmer. They're like, I don't really believe you. But so, I've heard that a lot.
I mean, you got the hands and it's like, and Carl, I mean, he was a heavy influence on me, and probably most of us.
They went to the same teacher though. My dad had the same teacher that Carl Palmer did. Yeah. Wow. A guy called Bruce Gaylor, I think. Okay. American guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, it's all good. I forgive you, but, we got to talking, and I knew we would connect at some point. So I'm glad to have you over here. Take me to the beginning of. So you got a unique playing style. You fall right into the my personal favorite area, that kind of jazz fusion. Very, very technical player. how did you, when you first started learning, who were your influences? What was it all about? Like,
Well, I started when I was about 5.
yeah,
And because of my dad, he's a drummer and there were drums in the house. And
same story here, man. Yeah,
right.
Same thing.
So he got me into it and taught me, throughout my childhood, and had a couple of teachers at school.
Yeah.
I had a teacher called Peter Precious at my high school who taught me to read and get through the grades and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it until I was like 18. And then I started to study with Thomas Lang, who at the time lived in North London.
Oh, you were with Thomas when he was in London?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had Thomas and I had a few other people throughout my 20s, and that were just one-offs. Thomas, I probably had 4 to 6 lessons over like a 2-year period.
Sure.
But that was it. I had my dad, and then largely self-taught with peppered in with some one-off lessons.
Yeah.
And I went to Berklee College of Music briefly in 2004.
Okay.
Got a scholarship, and it was my dream to move to America, and all my favorite musicians were American, and a lot of them had gone to Berklee, and I just thought that was the right thing to do, and maybe a stepping stone to living here or getting a gig and whatever. Yeah. And so went in 2004, but only lasted a semester because it was a real clash of I was 18. I mean, but clash of expectations when, meeting reality. And, almost no practice rooms. There were like 18 practice rooms for like 1,500 drummers, maybe.
Crazy, yeah. I heard that, yeah.
And so it was a battle to kind of just get back to a baseline, which I had in England, which was I was working a lot, even 16, 17, 18, I was gigging, studying with Thomas. My dad had drums at the house, and so we had a room where I could practice, which I was very lucky to have in my childhood. So I bailed on Berklee and came back and carried on working and studying. And then, I was working a lot in England and played with some great people like Jason Rebello, beautiful piano player, and Lawrence Cottle, and lots of great musicians in London, but always continued to have that niggling feeling that I wanted to move to America. And, London has a cool scene, but it's just always felt like everything's that I want is going on over there. I just had that feeling all the time. So I don't really know where the confidence came from looking back. I was 27 and I just thought, fuck it, I've had enough of this and I'm going to move. I mean, I literally was like, applied for the visa. Yeah. Because I was always like, well, how can I get the visa? Is it complicated? Will I be able to do it? All these questions. Yeah. This was obviously before there was so much information available through the internet. Yeah. Anyway, so got the visa and just moved here to LA in 2013. And I had a close friend, bass player called Yannick Guzdala. Yeah. Known him for a long time. Yeah. And he was really encouraging and
a monster.
Yeah, amazing musician. We played together a bit in England when he would come and visit. I would arrange gigs and played with Gary Husband, did a little tour with Gary. And
cool.
So I knew he was here and a couple of other friends, drummers and loose connections. And I just thought, I'm just going to do it. And I packed a bag and got the visa and showed up.
Awesome.
And here we are like 12 years later.
I love it. Yeah. I love the lesson story with Thomas. Thomas was a friend. I had him on the show. Tell me about those couple lessons with him, because there's so much you can learn from Thomas. And it's kind of like, what did you pick up from Thomas? I'm just curious. Like,
lots of things. And I still find him an inspiring guy to be around, Yeah. And so at the time, this was around the time when he first really burst onto the drumming scene.
Yeah, sure.
And it seemed like overnight. Obviously, he'd been in England for a while and working and doing all sorts of amazing stuff. But in the drum world, I remember going to see him maybe a year or so before studying with him. He did a drum clinic with Johnny Rabb and Marco Miniman. They did like a trio thing and did a bunch of dates around the UK. And I'd not seen him play. I'd never heard of Thomas, and saw the concert. I was with my dad and we just were like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. Like, never seen anything like that. Yeah. Certainly never seen it presented that way. Yeah. And so maybe a year or so later, I was playing at a little drum festival and Thomas showed up to do the raffle, to present the raffle, right? Okay. And I'm like, holy shit. So I just go up to him after the show, and he'd seen me play. I mean, I was 17 at the time, but and just said, do you teach? And he was like, yeah, I live in North London, come by. Yeah. And so, for me at the time, I was just so into his playing, and people often talk about his foot technique, certainly back in the day, because it was just like no one's seen anything like that. But I always used to thought he had amazing, and does have amazing hands. Of course. And so, it's just amazing to have technique taught to me by someone that skilled. Yeah. And we did mostly stuff on V drums and pads at the house that he lived at. And the first lesson was supposed to be a couple of hours and ended up being 4 hours. And it was just, inspiration to the max, at the time being 18 and exposed to all this amazing information. And, he was always such a together guy and inspiring because he was, an entrepreneur, and he has that mindset and the way he viewed things. And, he was the first guy I remember going for a lesson and taking him a tape of something I'd recorded in my little practice room of me playing along to a song. It happened to be like one of the Dave Weckl play-alongs. And, I was kind of proud of it. And he started to play it, and he was like, I mean, this sounds like Dave Weckl. What are you doing? This is no good, And so I expected him to kind of say, oh, it sounds good. And that was a nice fill. And he was the first guy that was like, this is not okay, And so up until that point, no one had really told me that. Yeah. And so that's something I got from him.
Helped you get your own voicing and styling,
Yeah, and we did a lot of independent stuff, and we did some Latin stuff. He was teaching me clave stuff and all sorts of things. I mean, I was 18, and it was just like amazing. It's great.
It's so I was just recently with him in Italy. We played, and he one of the things that fascinates me about him is the creativity, right? But even now, and I've seen him do this a million times, he just the night I was with him, he did a solo. It was probably like 20 minutes long, right? It was me, Dave Weckl, and Gergo. And he's just going on and on and on. And his equipment was fucked up and everything. And we were just like, what the fuck? And I'd seen it a million times before, and we were just all shaking like, come on, dude. All right, come on. We were just flabbergasted. I mean, amazing player.
Amazing. And always been very supportive. We kept in touch over the years. And
good dude.
Since I moved here,
Thomas,
we've seen each other.
We love you, brother.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah.
Was Weckl one of your main influences?
Yeah, I mean, I think
because I do see his playing. I see
think
a lot. I see some Weckl in you for sure.
I think that's obvious that he and Dennis Chambers were like the Mount Rushmore for me as a teenager. Both of them,
interesting,
in equal measure, and absolutely love them, and know them both a little bit.
Yeah,
which has been amazing to do, and many other people. My dad exposed me to Louie Bellson and Buddy Rich. Buddy Rich was his favorite drummer, but Louie Bellson too. And I loved Louie Bellson. And I wrote to him when I was 12. My dad, wrote this little letter on my behalf, but sent it to Remo, and Remo forwarded it to Louie, and he sent me back a signed picture with a little letter, which I have framed.
How nice.
With some advice and stuff. And then I ended up meeting him later on at a concert when he was in his 80s.
Wow.
The nicest guy ever, as everyone says. And so people like that, and I mean, God, my brain's going to go blank, but Tony Williams and
of course.
Keith Carlock, and these days I really enjoy listening to Marcus Gilmore.
Okay. I was going to ask you, like modern players.
Yeah, amazing player. I went through a period of loving, I still do, but being particularly enamored with Ronald Bruner.
Oh yeah, he's
because he really fused the gospel chops, I guess you could say, for want of a better phrase, style of playing, but very much he's a legit jazz guy.
He's a legit jazz guy,
which a lot of his peers are not, and so
yes,
his playing is unbelievable. And I went through a period of listening to him a lot, and obviously Gad and Vinny, and I mean loads of people. Yeah.
Ronald's interesting fella. Yeah, I mean, just musical and just monstrous.
Yeah, and a lot of personality too.
I don't know him, but I mean, his playing is it's dangerous.
Yeah, and a lot of excitement and personality, and of course, like I'm thinking now, names are coming to mind. Lenny White, who's not talked about much.
No, not much.
Billy Cobham,
of course.
Simon Phillips. Jeff Hamilton.
Oh yeah. Of
course, Elvin Jones, and Art Blakey, and lots of different people. My dad really exposed me to all sorts of types of music and playing, and
so similar to my upbringing. Yeah, it's very similar. Dad was a drummer, got me on the kit, same age, and just for me at the time, it was Buddy Rich, it was Ginger Baker. When I saw Ginger Baker, you've probably seen that clip. There's a old Cream clip where they're interviewing them, and then Ginger, they're asking him to play, and he lays into this swing. But he's playing like double bass, and he's playing traditional grip. And I'm like, that's it.
Right.
That's it right there. So it was Buddy, Ginger, Billy Cobham, and then Bill Bruford for me. And then later on was JoJo Mayer and a lot of the modern guys you've named. But I think I think we have that jazz background. You kind of are leaning in on those guys. And Louie Bellson, right? Like, just what an amazing, and back then, dude, we were watching VHS tapes. Like, can you imagine? Like, I had to fucking figure, and I didn't have lessons. It was my dad, and then it was, see ya.
Right.
I surpassed him pretty quickly. And, we had to just like dissect VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And now, like, the way drums are broken down and explained, and you're probably on the forefront of doing shit like that anyway, and you teach.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. The couple of things come to mind. Louie Bellson and Buddy Rich were a really interesting comparison. My dad used to talk about this because, I feel like your personality comes through. Who you are as a person comes through in your playing. Yeah. So often how you play is how you would interact in the real world.
Sure.
And so if you would burst into a conversation, interrupt and be a dick, a lot of people play like that also. And so, Buddy had that aggression and fire.
Buddy was the dick.
Well, he could be, but, he had a fiery personality, and that came through in his playing. And Louie Bellson was such a soft guy, which came through in being a lovely accompanist and tasteful and he was an arranger, and he was thoroughly educated. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you were like, I wish you would like kick it a bit more. Yeah. And then equally, sometimes Buddy was like a little bit heavy. You know what I mean? But that's the personality coming through.
Yeah. Louie had the chops, though. I mean, you would see it. But I think
absolutely.
You're right. I think he was reserved.
Yeah.
He was
a quiet guy,
Yeah. I thought he was an elegant version
elegant.
Of the drummer.
That's a great description.
Yeah, he's very elegant. Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously, his contribution with double bass and stuff like that. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else do you really...
I mean, I went through a period of listening to Keith Carlock a lot, and I still do. And I feel like I was talking to someone the other day, like who else has come through since him that was so unique, like just burst onto the scene with something totally new.
Yeah.
Like the setup, the sound, obviously the bass drum sound, the vocabulary. Nobody played like that.
Yeah.
And still doesn't. But you can tell how many people have been influenced by him when you listen to Mark Juliana and a lot of New York drummers. Yeah. Those early 2000s when he burst onto the scene.
Yeah.
And he's just so unique. And I saw him with Steely Dan, and even playing a more kind of straight ahead gig like that versus his stuff, improvised music with Wayne Krantz and stuff. The personality and the originality comes through, and it's like he's just stone cold original. You're
making me want to dig into the early stuff again because I know what a monster he is.
He just posted a little
so unique
bootleg from 2003 or 2001. Oh no, maybe earlier. No, it was 1997. That's when it was. His early days of playing with Wayne Krantz, and it's like amazing.
Yeah. I'm gonna dive into that. That's why I love this shit.
All that vocabulary and I remember seeing a very old video of him in the 90s playing with the Blues Brothers, and you can see some things developing. He was still a young guy, but the setup with the ride cymbal kind of in the middle, how he used to have it, and the tilted snare, but not as extreme.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when someone is young like he was then, and you're developing your playing and your vocabulary. A lot of the stuff he was doing and originals do is they're just like feeling around in the dark. They don't know how it's going to end up and whether this 6-month period or years or longer or whatever working on this thing is going to lead anywhere. You might kind of get to the end and go, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to be pretty disciplined and have a vision, of this stuff that no one has. You can't just throw on a video and copy somebody.
No.
They're coming up with their own stuff, know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Monster player, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a traditional grip drummer, and I'm sure you get an earful about that, especially in today's climate. Yeah. Have you always, is that since day one?
Yeah, my dad plays that way, and he always used to call it orthodox.
Orthodox, yeah.
Which I guess means the same thing. But,
same thing, I've heard that.
He played that way, and so I play that way, and I feel like, I don't know for sure from each individual, but I think all the famous traditional grip players that we know, like Jojo and Weckl and Steve Smith and all those Virgil, they were taught that way when they were young, as I was, and you end up stuck with it. So it's very hard to change. Virgil, who I studied with briefly, said that he advised me to maybe think about switching, and said that if he started over again, he would switch. He would go to match.
So it's funny, Thomas introduced me to Weckl just recently. And he introduced me, hey, Freddie, he's a traditional grip player. That's how he introduced me.
Right.
And at the same time, and I'm literally just meeting Dave for the first time, we both were like, unfortunately. That's the words that came out of our mouth.
Yeah.
But I was saying it half jokingly, but Dave was dead serious.
Yeah.
You know, I catch a lot of shit too. Do you think how limiting do you think it is at the end of the day?
I think it's extremely limiting. I think it's a total waste of time unless you are in a position like we are, where we were taught that way. And, you know, the human body is amazing. It adapts to the weirdest stuff. Right. And so I just took a 9-week break when I was moving back to LA, and I had this weird pain in my thumb. And, you know, it's not natural. It just makes no sense. We all know that it made sense for when you had a drum on the side and you were walking, marching. It makes no sense for modern drum set. The only upside, I think, is that if you play quiet music, straight ahead jazz, or stuff that you don't need consistently loud and powerful playing, there's a nice dynamic range, because you can come up on the stick, or up on the drum head, I should say, so the stick can play at different angles. So you get a lot of dynamic range. Yes. And also it splits your brain in two. Tony Williams talked about this. Like it really does split your brain, you know, and make you feel like each hand has a different role. A lot of match grip players play a lot of linear stuff, and everybody sounds the same. Yes. A lot of the traditional grip players that you can think of, like Steve Smith and Jojo and Weckl and Buddy, and their vocabulary is interesting.
The vocabulary is different. I've always said this. It's like a different instrument. Yeah. When your left hand is in that position.
Yeah. But it's very limiting for modern playing, for volume, for consistent backbeats. The sound is different. Yes. You know, when the hand is over the stick and dampening the stick more, I think you get a nicer rim shot sound. You get more of a woody pop.
There's no question.
And you can play any setup. The setup thing is just a absolute nightmare. Playing other people's gear, trying to get your own gear set up for the right thing, so I can reach the toms. But I want it's like a therapy session. I want the snare drum tilted up, but then that puts the hi-hat up.
You're the only guy that walks in, his snare drum's like fucking falling over. Like people are looking at it like, what is this?
Yeah. And so it's just a constant compromise. And the match grip players I love, and someone's just come to mind that I cannot believe I didn't mention earlier. 2 people actually, Steve Ferroni and also Will Kennedy. Oof. And Will Kennedy, both of those guys are in my top 5. And Will Kennedy, the way he plays is just amazing. Yeah. And the only match grip players that really make me want to switch are like Dennis Chambers, Will Kennedy, Ronald Bruner. Yeah. And some of the stuff Will Kennedy would do musically, like amazing single strokes, but he would use them musically. So he would use them for these big crescendos that had such a great musical effect. It wasn't just that he could play fast. Yeah. And so Dennis, with his vocab, not only his power and speed and the stuff that people talk about, but the way he sounds on the snare drum with his left hand, and he'll play little vocab things, right? He'll be playing like a groove, and he'll do like 2 16th notes as rim shots. You know, it's hard to describe without playing, but those are almost impossible to do consistently traditional.
Very hard with traditional.
You can't rely on it for those things.
Can't rely on it for that, no. And so tremendous power and strength to do that, Yeah.
And so seeing Ronald Bruner, for example, close up at the Jazz Cafe in London a bunch of times, standing like 3 feet away, I wanted to be able to access that power and speed and sound, you know, and you can't. So I tried to switch a few times in my 20s.
You don't play matched at all?
No, it's pretty terrible.
So I mean, you know, people that know my playing, like for my recorded music, I'd say 90% of it is match grip for exactly what you said, backbeat, right? And most of the stuff I record is rock. There's just I don't even bother anymore to play stuff where a rim shot is required. I can do it. I much prefer to flip the stick, so I'm using the butt and using that leverage. Obviously, that's smarter. I don't know how Virgil does it, because he's kind of got a really, I call it like a claw. He's got a very, I would say, an unorthodox grip. It's challenging. It is. I would say that, you know, and I've gotten asked this question a fucking million times, and I'm a proponent of playing traditional grip. I actually do think there's value to it, and I actually think. Not to be a great drummer, I don't want to say that, but it should be in the vocabulary, because there are some phrasings and some technical things that it is good at. When I was coming up, man, just the guys that were fucking ballers were playing traditional grip. Right. And you just look, that guy plays like that, like Buddy plays like that. Yeah. And even Billy Cobham, like, you know, you would see videos where he was playing both ways. He could, right? Yeah. It wasn't until like I really started listening to Bill Bruford, who's a jazz drummer, right? Mm-hmm. That I started learning matched. And by no means did I put the time in that I put into the traditional grip, but I knew that like there was something to it. It was just the way he played. He almost pulled the notes out of the head instead of smashing it. I found that very interesting. So I worked with it a little bit and I use it. And now most of my time is spent perfecting my match grip, but I'm glad I can switch between both, at least good enough to get by.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get that together so I could at least do that, switch a little bit.
But you, like, when I watch you play, and like I said, you to me, your technique's flawless, right? You just look like you're just locked in. It would almost be weird seeing you go to matched grip.
Yeah, well, I know some people that have switched to match, and to me, their playing is not, it's just not quite the same. Yeah. And so I wonder if that's because, you spend 30 years doing it one way, there's certain things, certain attributes or qualities that just become ingrained. Yeah. So when I was trying to switch, you could overcome the technical hurdle. Like you could, if you have the enthusiasm, which I'm not sure I do these days, but to put the hours in on the pad to get the fingers going and the wrist movement, because it's not just like the German grip position. You've also got the French thing, and that I can't do with my left hand at all.
And the grip that I've kind of really found is in between the two.
Yeah.
In between the three of them. And I guess it's more of an American, but I actually sideswipe the drum. I talk a lot about what I do with match grip. To get it in my left hand, though, is very tough.
It's very tough. So that would take a long time.
It takes a long time.
But it's doable.
It's doable.
But then there's the things of like I'm playing, to a click or recording it or whatever and listening back and, feel things like micro timing and dynamics and your touch. That really is a long road, and I'm not sure the time at this age is worth putting into switch when already I guess traditional grip these days makes me stand out a little bit. I sound a little bit different than a lot of the match grip players,
for sure.
So you at some point you just got to go, well, this is
what makes you look like an old fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to Weckl about it and doing this whole therapy thing, going, I hate it, and he's like, well, switch then. Yeah. Like, make a decision. Like, at some point, you just got to get on with it or switch.
No, I get it.
But I get messages all the time, and I literally got one 2 days ago that was like asking about switching to traditional from a match grip player, saying I'm doing it or I really want to do it, and the reason is always because it looks cool. I'm like, that is the last reason.
I don't even know that it looks that cool.
Well, a lot of people think that it does. I always get the compliment that, it looks great. And traditional grip players are often talked about because it looks so kind of, I don't know, like elegant sometimes.
It looks elegant. If it's done right, it looks elegant. Yeah.
And from a drummer point of view, it looks cool or whatever. But who cares? Like Tommy Igoe often says, nobody, and I mean nobody cares what grip you use.
Nobody gives a shit.
Even drummers, like if you're listening to something,
you have
members,
no idea what's
audience,
going on.
Yeah, exactly. So if it works for you, then you're not struggling with physical things or volume things or whatever, then fine. But I was always like wanted to play certain things that was not really accessible traditional. But it is what it is, and it does make you think differently.
Thomas said it best when he was rattling off the points of the negatives, right? The one thing he said, and kind of to me was somewhat of a positive, but I completely get it. He's like, you spend so much time working on this stupid grip just to get it to work to the degree you need it to, that you just lose out on everything else. Right? You're not working on your feet, your other hand.
Yeah.
He's right about that. I made a decision, though. I was probably, I've been playing it my whole life. I was probably like 18 years old. And again, even back then when I was 18, there was no YouTube still. I'm still looking at VHSs. I'm still trying to figure out what is going on with the fingers. How are some guys able to do these single stroke rolls? And the whole time I'm really relying heavily on this index finger and really working on this finger control, right? And then from just nonstop practice on the pad with this thing. One day I opened up this kind of free stroke technique where the fucking stick came to 90 degrees. It was basically using the thumb a little more. It was in the web. And I'm like, wait a second. And then I attended a really cool camp, I guess you will, where Billy Cobham was the head honcho. It was like 5 people. It was super expensive. It was incredible, though. I spent like 4 days with Billy, just like fucking chilling with like my favorite drummer. And I was practicing one day, and I was doing that thing. I was probably around in my early 20s, and I was doing that thing. He's like, that's it. And I knew he was right because I had seen him playing that way. He's like, that's it. And I knew I was onto something. So after that point, I started really looking into, well, what's going on with this movement? And that's when I really started to hone in on my technique, which then became something. I was then able to take it to a level I didn't know I could take it to, and better than most of the people I had seen do it.
Right.
Only because I spent a lot of time with it. And now it's fine-tuned to the point where it's far better than my matched will ever be.
Right.
And even like, I was even trying to show people maybe a year ago, whatever, I was doing blast beats, like just like 240 blast beats with traditional grip, showing people that you could do it, but nobody gave a fuck.
Right.
But it took so much effort to get it to that.
Yeah, and it requires constant maintenance. Virgil used to talk about that, and he's one guy that really has explored more powerful.
The power he gets, that's another thing. The power he gets,
consistent power and speed, and really amazing. But he said it requires maintenance, and like I said, I took that break, and it really was not good. Whereas Matt, the right hand's fine. It's so natural. So I wouldn't recommend it. There's no purpose to it, you know, unless you are a jazz guy, and it has some positive attributes for dynamics and. The hands in that style of music, or those styles, do have different roles, and the left hand is not the dominant volume hand. Yeah. Anyway, so matched is way better.
Yeah, but I do agree the vocabulary is different. But again, is it worth it? Probably not. Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. Yeah. But I wanted to get that out of you.
Yeah. I wish I could go back in time.
I know, and I'm cool with it. I mean, it's a differentiator, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, it maybe would be worth you spending some time on that match grip.
Yeah, I should.
It's a pain in the ass.
And interestingly, I experimented when you mentioned Billy Cobham, with the open-handed thing, not leading with my left, but putting my hi-hat on the right side. A couple of years ago during the pandemic, I tried to commit to that. To do something different, because I'm just so bored with my playing and everyone else is playing the same setups and the same stuff. Yeah. But that really is depressing, because it makes you realize that traditional grip is a no-no, and also so is playing close, like cross-handed. That's insane.
It's another, but it's insane
because the drum kit is a relatively young instrument. And back in the day, people didn't analyze stuff like we do today. And they're just kind of like, well, that's the way you do it. It makes no sense. Yeah. Even if you're right-handed, you could argue that the left hand has more of an intricate role than the right. The right's very kind of, it's far louder. More intricate, They might play more notes, but the left hand's doing much more of a hills and valleys thing.
Absolutely.
And so everyone should be taught open-handed, in my opinion. Anyway, so someone like Will Kennedy and Billy Cobham, Carter Beauford, Simon Phillips, when you see the vocabulary, that they're allowed to play because they lead with the left on the hi-hat. Yeah. So matched, open-handed is the way to go.
And that's what I looked at it for a while, because Bill Bruford was a huge influence on me. Early 90s, he had leveled his kit, had the hi-hat in the middle. Yeah. He had gotten rid of this.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. I never did it, though. I'm a sucker for simplicity and just kind of not... COVID would have been a great time to start experimenting with new configurations. Yeah. But I agree, man. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff we do on the kit that doesn't make sense. I've seen Simon. I was never, just because I didn't listen to a lot of his music, Simon Phillips was never on my radar. Wound up going to see him in a show about a year ago. Blown away.
Right.
Blown away.
Yeah.
Very intricate player. And his setup's super interesting.
Yeah.
Low hi-hat. He's right in here the whole time.
It's great.
Really wicked. Yeah. He got that from Billy.
Yeah.
He talks about it a lot, but
he I've heard him talk about how he taught himself to do it. You know
gnarly.
What I mean?
Yeah.
He said he was doing those disco sessions in the 70s that were very simple.
Yeah.
And would just kind of get bored and just do it.
Yeah. Just that's when you got to do it.
Yeah. And he's another interesting guy, because I used to know a guy that did some sessions with him in the 70s, was a sound engineer, a guy called Martin Lawrence. And this was before Simon was Simon. Anyone knew who he was, or, had the reputation, way before that. But he showed up to this kind of very simple 2 and 4 session with the monster kit. And I've always respected that, because like he's a guy that had a vision, He
had a vision.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is another guy that talks about that a lot, and he's a fascinating guy. But he had a vision, and he didn't care what other people thought.
That's right.
And I was talking to Weckl recently about some different things, and he's like, you care too much what people think. If it's like, am I too loud, or should I bring this cymbal, or should I take this much stuff? Like, it's good to have a certain amount of, this is what I do, take it or leave it, you know?
Yeah.
And so, Simon, before, you could imagine, I would imagine if I showed up to a session with that much gear, and I'm not famous, someone's going to go, who the fuck is this guy?
What is this guy doing with all these drums?
He did it because that's his thing, and it's like, take it or leave it. And I always thought that was cool.
The sonic identity that he gets from it is incredible. When he hits some of those lower fucking tone toms.
Yeah,
Like
amazing.
incredible. I was right on top of the kit when I saw him play. I was just really blown away, and I've seen everybody. And,
yeah, he has a very specific vision for, his cymbals are always very consistent. And he's one of those guys like Weckl and Dennis and a few different people that when you go to see them, you see the thing.
Yeah.
They don't show up on like a...
You see the thing. Yeah, they're not showing up a half-assed version of themselves.
It's the thing. And that's whether that's the equipment, obviously, of course, the playing, the sound presentation, how it's coming through the house, and the care that's taken with that stuff. It's all part of the thing. And drummers ignore a lot of that stuff.
I think they just out of laziness.
Yeah.
Just, I'll play this.
Most drummers can't tune a drum to save their life.
Yeah.
So...
No,
so
that's nightmare. Nightmare. Billy Cobham said to me, he said, listen, don't ever sit down on a drum kit and be uncomfortable. Adjust the seat, adjust the snare, set it up to your configuration. Do not try to play someone else's kit or, you have to fill in or do not.
Yeah.
It's true. You can't.
Yeah.
I got to tilt my snare. It's got to fall over, right? I got to do what I got to do so that I can play properly.
Yeah.
It's very true. Overlooked.
Yeah.
All right, let's cut the shit here. Okay. What do you think of the current state of what you're seeing online with drummers and drumming? Like, what's your read on that? Are you loving it? Are you feeling it? What?
I mean, at this point, if you'd asked me 4 years ago or so, I would have had a rant maybe. But I think at this point we're so far into it, and the world has changed. It's not just our little industry. I think it's across everything. I think it's across daily life and politics and just information sharing, and everything's become a total mess. And so, at some point you just got to kind of surrender a little bit and not let it anger you, because it's changing with or without you. And so that's my philosophy these days, is that it is what it is. And, it's a little depressing in some ways, because, I teach, and I had a couple students recently. When I'm referencing certain players, I'm assuming that people still know who they are.
They are, but they
and
don't.
I referenced a couple of people, and they're like, oh, and this was one guy that was at music college. So he's like 22 at pursuing this and didn't know. And it's like, I'm not referencing them because I love them or because I think...
This is the fucking reference point.
Yeah, it's a reference point also because they came from an era where you can look up this one particular drummer and hear them do a myriad of things. Right. Whereas these days, just not because of the fault of the drummer that you may talk about, but the environment that we're all in. It's not possible for somebody to play that range of stuff. Like if you check out Peter Erskine, you can hear him on movie scores, play with a symphony orchestra, play with Weather Report, play with Diana Krall. I mean, just everything, every possible thing you can think of. Yeah. And so, that's why I reference those names. But anyway, I'm realizing that I'm becoming old-fashioned, I guess, also, with my references maybe, and that the scene in general is moving on. And so I think it's just people want entertainment, and Instagram, you put the more musical posts you put up, the less engagement you get.
It's insane.
And one quick reference is my friend, a bass player. This was a while ago, but he was putting up all sorts of clips and, testing the algorithm as we've all done, and, trying to get traction because he's, trying to sell products or whatever it is. And so he got home from a gig one night and just as a joke filmed him sliding his bass down the stairs in its case.
Viral.
Highest views ever he's ever gotten.
And this is what I was telling you earlier. I was like literally looking at it like, well, what do I have to do next? Obviously I got to get naked. You got to do something nuts.
Right.
Playing's not going to cut it. It's sad.
But then I think at that point you got to, which is kind of what I do, I guess, is just ignore it and just do your own thing and document what you're doing. And if people are interested, they are. And
which there's plenty of them, but it's just actually them seeing it anymore is so hard. Your own following doesn't see your shit. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird. What do you think? I mean, like when you look at like an Estepario, right? I only bring him up because, in the beginning, I think we kind of maybe all hated him. And then I started to really like him because then I realized that, he's a talented guy, right? I don't know him, but he's great for drums. This is a guy that's, like I said, I meet people that are non-drummers that follow this dude, which, to cross, guys like Travis Barker and Tommy Lee and stuff like that have gone mainstream to where you know them as drummers when they're in another sphere. But this dude has broken it down, right? But he's good for the industry because the drum business, drum industry is tiny, so small, so niche. And this dude's just like knocked the walls down, despite what you think of him. But I mean, do you think he's good for like what I'm saying? Do you think that's a pro for us?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm so out of that scene in terms of, obviously seen some clips of his playing, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
But I guess the context, we're probably similar age, so we both probably come from the era or the context where it was recordings, right? So listening to music, which that has been removed from this whole chain, right?
The drummers that you and I love have recorded hundreds of fucking pieces of music.
And if you saw a drum clinic, it was someone who's coming through town, like Buddy Rich. The original drum clinics were Buddy was on the road with his band, and then he would go to a drum shop and do a clinic. So
now
it was always from music. I was exposed to Dennis Chambers playing when I was 7 years old with the Buddy Rich memorial tape, right? And so then you're like checking out all the records he played on, and the umbrella is always music. And so when that's removed and someone's like, hey, even when someone's referencing, hey, have you checked out any Gary Novak? And their reference is a drum solo out of context on YouTube.
Exactly.
And if those guys are 22 doing that, I mean, can you blame them? That's the world they're growing up in.
This is what it is. You're right.
So maybe to them, for me to say, oh, you should check out this CD or whatever, to them, is that like when I was young and someone said, go and get this record, an actual LP.
100%.
So I guess they're being fed. They only get their information from scrolling Instagram and YouTube, and it's short
linear.
clips.
It's
out of context.
Yeah. It's out of context.
So I don't know.
I would agree with you. I mean, what is the point if it's not to music? Just playing solos online is not really a great. It doesn't really show you much. Yeah, no. It shows you the skill level they have, but can they play with a band? Let's assume they can. But Billy Cobham, right? I mean, how many songs has that dude played on that are iconic drum songs, right? That if you took it out of context, you would be like,
right,
maybe. But like with the music, that's the magic.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. And you're right. I mean, without that, and it's material, right? So a drummer that's not recording and playing on records and stuff like that, it's kind of sad. It sucks, It's where you really, really shine.
But then, are we getting to the point where all of that, what you just said, is true, but does it matter?
No, it does not.
Because music and bands and records, people listening to an album from front to back, do you think people do that anymore?
Nobody
they don't do that.
No, it doesn't matter.
So
it's 5 seconds.
Does it even matter? It's no, like that's where we're kind of headed. So, for me to harp on about, well, this is how it used to be and this is how it should be done, I'm sometimes wondering if that's just like a pointless existence. So I do my thing because I enjoy it, and I get to play with my own band sometimes at the Baked Potato and with these great musicians that I grew up listening to, and I just try and like do what makes me happy, which is listening to music. And I used to get a little frustrated with these kind of guys that are doing this out of context stuff, but it's like, I mean, what can I do about it? I just got to do my thing and
nothing.
What
would you say your mix is? Like, so I know you teach. I know you have some sort of online kind of school or courses. You obviously play out. You have a band. Like, what's your mix?
It's a mix. Exactly. I think everybody, even some people that are household names, it's a mix of things to keep everything going.
Absolutely, of course.
And so my dad is an entrepreneur, and so I grew up in the self-employed grind. And so it's a mix of teaching and playing and doing my own stuff. I do some fly dates for different bands. I've done some local stuff, of course, in LA, restaurant gigs, back in the day. And, I have my online school, playbetterdrums.com, which has really grown into a great encyclopedia over the last 10 years of all my stuff that I studied with all these great people.
Pre-recorded kind of stuff that they can tap into at any time.
There's like different memberships, and you get the full library of like 400 lessons and
nice.
Lots of foundation stuff and stuff that I learned from these great players. And so I have the subscription. I teach privately, on Zoom and in person, of course. And it's just a mixture, to keep things going and trying to hang in there. And
how is your personal discography? I mean, are you on a lot of stuff?
I mean, I've recorded. I mean, I haven't, done hundreds of albums. I wish I had. But I've, when I moved to the States, I've played with some of my heroes. I played with Mike Stern and recorded with Randy Brecker, and I played with Luis Conte and Mitch Foreman and Tim LaFave. I did a record with Tim LaFave and
nice.
Jason Rebella. I've done a few things with, and but it's tough because when people do, for someone to organize a project these days, it's a loss.
Yeah.
You know, monetarily, it's a total loss.
It's so hard to make it work.
So, you know,
it's nuts.
That
it's
kind
nuts.
of music, especially, you know, it's tough, you know.
If you could give me one record, just one, that was most influential on your playing.
Oh my God, one record.
I love asking drummers this one. You got to give me one.
One record. I mean, I probably have to say then a Mike Stern record, a record called Between the Lines from 98, 99 kind of era, maybe a little earlier, but that had Dave Weckl and Dennis on it, Dennis Chambers. And I love Stern's playing, and a lot of great musicians on that record. And they shared the drum chair, you know, and it's Stern is an interesting gig because he uses a lot of different drummers, and hearing how they all interpret the same music is interesting. Yeah. And that record was just like an absolute favorite of mine when I was a teenager, and had my two favorite drummers on it. So if I had to name just one, I guess that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Love it. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Outside of drumming, man, like what's Louie doing?
Playing tennis. Too much tennis. If I had spent the hours I've played tennis over the last 10 years drumming, I'd be like the greatest ever. So I grew up playing a little tennis in the UK. My mum got me into that, but then I really got into it when I was in my early 20s. Old school friend was a professional player and broke his ankle, and then was kind of sidelined, and we reconnected, and he gave me lessons in this indoor place, and I became like obsessed. And I'm pretty good, you know, over the years I've had a lot of lessons and played. Like, I mean, before I moved to Vegas, it was kind of good to move to kind of get out of this cycle of I played every day. Yeah. And then of course you're like exhausted, and then you're like, well, I was going to go and practice drums, but maybe I'll do it tomorrow. But anyway, it's kept me healthy. I lost weight when I was in my 20s doing that, and gets me out in the sun. And so that's my like, probably an equal passion to drumming is tennis.
Wow. That's amazing, man. Yeah. It looks appealing. I got a lot of buddies that play it.
I'll
seems really, really cool.
I'll die on the hill that it's the toughest sport, apart from maybe boxing. You know, when you're physically touching someone, it is the most brutally hard sport for many different reasons.
Yeah. There's a lot of technique involved.
A lot of technique, a lot of similarities. I had some lessons the other day, and there's a lot of similarities to drumming technique. Yeah. About like not stopping the natural flow of energy with physics and how your body moves and stuff. Sure. And it's brutally hard physically, and it's a solo sport, so mentally it's very tough. Yep. And it teaches you a lot of good things about life and overcoming obstacles, and you know, figuring things out. I remember Andre Agassi talking about tennis and saying, you know, the times you go out there, and he was talking about himself, the times I went out there and was playing my best, like 10 times a year, maybe not even that many. Yeah. Most of the time you're not playing well, and you've got to figure it out. Yeah. And I did a gig the other week, and I had that second tune of the set, and I'm like, this is one of those nights. You can tell your brain's not really connected to your hands, and you feel like too aware of everything and not in that kind of natural state. Flow, and you have to kind of figure out how to get out of that.
Adjustment,
or meet you where you are, you know, what the day's given you, and just kind of figure it out.
Takes time to get that connection.
Yeah.
Do you ever get concerned that you'll get hurt playing tennis?
Yeah. Because
I've had a few, really fuck up your arms.
Totally. I've had a couple of near misses, and I also have back problems, and I have had a few back spasms where I've been out for 10 days out, you know. And that's interesting. Yeah, I've had to start doing a lot of gym stuff. And I had a personal trainer for a while, and that was interesting. And because the sitting playing drums is bad.
Sitting's playing is bad, and also, I mean, look, this is the most physical of the instruments, and I notice a lot of guys are getting banged up as you get older. You can't hit them like you used to. You can't move like you used to. One wrong torso twist, man, to hit that floor tom. Yeah. You gotta be very careful.
Yeah, traditional grip is bad because you're leaning this way. Like I've had a few doctors look at me.
Get out of that.
You're twisted this way and then this way, right? Because of the bass drum. Yeah. Both feet, I play heel up, so let's say both feet are up, but one is pressing down hard.
Yeah, it's off balance the whole time.
Yeah, and the other's like dancing on the pedal. So that's weird. And so 35 years of doing that, and then obviously the tennis is not bad. It's good to move. It's good to keep your body moving. And I have a disc issue that I will have to keep moving forever.
Sure.
Otherwise it will get worse. So it's just that obviously sometimes if you're not taking care of the drumming and the personal, gym stuff and stretching, that then doing an extreme sport can then tip you over the edge.
Yeah. I always, when I do classes and all that shit, I always advocate good 10 minutes of stretching, warming up and all that.
Yeah.
You hit on something that no one's ever talked about, though, is that left shoulder for the traditional grip drummer, right? Something I picked up on a long time ago and still haven't been able to really correct. Even if I keep tilting and bringing up the left side of the drum to get those shoulders square, I'm still, if you watching videos, I'm still like this. It bugs the shit out of me.
Right.
I know it's not good.
Yeah. I think it's unavoidable, I've experimented with tilting the snare drum like Keith Carlock does away from you.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Which I do, but still.
It makes a lot of sense and it opens up the hi-hat. You don't feel
get a little room.
You don't feel so, but then it kind of alienates the right side of the drum kit to me. So when you're going over to the floor toms and stuff and you come back, and it also for me, because I don't
to get your right hand to hit those rim shots.
I don't play like he does, so I play palm down, and then you're like this, and so it's tough. It's a lot of musical instruments come with physical problems because it's not natural to do that for 8 hours a day for 30 years, like anything repetitively, So there's always going to be stuff that causes problems.
Would you say you're talking about playing tennis and kind of having time away from the drums, actual practicing. Do you still actually practice, or is it more just you're getting ready for a gig or you're teaching someone and you just kind of do it?
I do. I don't really practice enough new stuff. And that's something I've made a pact with myself since moving back to LA to take some lessons with some of the great people that are here. Luis Conte is one of them to learn about Latin rhythms and percussion and stuff and to get some new stuff.
Who else? Tell me.
Oh, Gary Novak. I'd love to study with him. There's another great drummer called Steve Haas who lives here.
Steve Haas.
Amazing player, can play all styles, killer jazz player.
Yeah. I love that you're still,
Yeah, I got to force myself to do it. And Peter Erskine also, I took a couple lessons, or one lesson with Peter Erskine many years ago. Mm-hmm. And he was a great teacher, but he was a tough teacher. And it's like, I've just got to get into the mindset of embarrassing myself and putting myself in that scenario again.
What do you go to these guys for? What are you looking for in terms of, is it technique? Is it a stylistic?
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes I've had one-offs with people like this when I've been older and I'm at a certain level, a decent level. Yeah. Without real kind of maybe a long time with someone like that. There's only so much they can show you because a lot of it is you got to do it.
You got to do it.
Yeah. And but so I'll go to people like that often for not maybe necessarily technique, but like questions about broader concepts about playing with different musicians and how they feel time and
there's
how they play over forms and what it was like playing with that guy versus that guy, and discussions come up on how to deal with those scenarios and sound and just more broad things, I guess.
I love that you do that. I found that when people come to me for a certain thing, I would prefer if they came to me for this one thing, which is, when you have someone in the physical space, if it's a technique thing, if it's a technical thing, you could actually really make some great strides for people by just simply tweaking the body. And for what I would do with traditional grip and stuff like that, I would be able to take someone's hand and literally show them exactly how to do it. I found that very valuable.
Right.
And if it's technical stuff, you can get a lot out of working with people. But I love the other thing that you're looking at was just kind of concepts, ways they think about things.
And I was
these
never
are conversations,
Right.
Yeah.
I was never like a 8-hour-a-day practicer. I would play for many hours a day, but I could never really play for more than an hour.
Well, when we were kids, right? We had that kind that time.
Yeah, we had the time too, but even so, like 45 minutes, an hour, that's it for me, and then I would take a break. And there were only a couple periods. One of them was with Thomas, that period where I was really diligent with practicing independence and from books and from his material.
Yeah.
But I should do more of that. A lot of my practice has just been playing and improvising and just trying to chase that sound and delivery that my favorite drummers have. It's like an unknown quality, and you can't kind of articulate what it is, how they do it. Yeah. And so it's, for me, when I sit down and play, I'm constantly trying to make it smoother and the delivery better and
just make it sound better, right?
Yeah.
I love that because I think so many people are caught up in trying to learn shit that's, at the end of the day, not that important,
Yeah.
and not necessary. Like whether you're trying to learn blast beats and you're not even a metal, you don't even play that style of music, or you're going wild with the independence to where you're trying to coordinate things that sound like shit just to make it like you can do this math.
Yeah.
Useless. What you're saying, tone, feel, the sound of things,
Totally.
execution.
Yeah.
These are important things.
Yeah. But then yes, I totally agree. But people are turned on by different things. Some drummers are just into the mathematical stuff. They just love it.
I get it.
I couldn't
know
care
those guys.
less.
Yeah.
There are some people
less,
that do interesting things like Virgil and Vinnie Colaiuta and Matt Garstka with these odd groupings that are very musical the way they do them, and they can create like tension in the music in their playing. And I've always wanted to get into that stuff, but I just don't have the discipline to do it.
If it's musical, is it valid?
Yeah, but a lot of other stuff is it's just pointless to me. And when I was younger and would go and watch like Dave Weckl every night at Ronnie Scott's when they used to do like a week-long run, and I'd sit right by the stage. Yeah. The stuff that I was going home, amazed by wasn't always necessarily the fancy solos and the stuff that people immediately go to. It was him just playing like these slow tempos, and the sound of his backbeat, and because you could hear a mix of the PA and the real drums and like the delivery, and he has a beautiful feel, and like he's often talked about for the fusiony thing and the drum solos, but he can play the baddest shuffle, and he's just got beautiful hands, and it was that stuff that I was like, what is that, and I've heard him like in a lesson he'll sit down on his little 4-piece kit and just play a little thing, and it's the simplest thing just to demonstrate something. I'm like, that sounded fucking amazing. Because just the way he played something, like the how, the way he did it.
It'd be simple. It's just the way someone hits it.
Yeah, but for me, that was fascinating. Yeah. But for a lot of people, they're like, well, that was just a parody. It's like, yeah, but it's not it's not about that.
Yeah.
There's all these other layers that they're not hearing.
Yeah. It's the dynamics. It's the way it's phrased. I mean, there's so many
you got to chase
nuances there.
Yeah, you got to chase what you like ultimately. But I think I was just always interested in those things,
I couldn't agree more. And so many great people and players that execute on those simple things so well that maybe go overlooked.
Look at Dennis Chambers. I mean, I've got to know Dennis a little bit over the years recently, and which is amazing considering I was like the biggest fan ever and wore out the VHS tapes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me all these stories about different people he's played with, and he's such a relaxed guy about everything. Yeah. And he's largely, or pretty much completely self-taught. Yeah. And so, you can teach yourself that stuff, from records if you're focusing on the right things. Yes. His pocket is just beyond belief. Yeah. And the sound of his drums, the way he hits them, package, he can play all these different styles of music, and, amazing.
Super cool, man.
Yeah.
What's in the pipeline for Louie Palmer? What's coming up next?
Well, I'm playing with Greg Howe next month.
Really? Great guitar player.
Yeah. Well, this month. Next month, I guess, August. And so that's going to be fun because talking of Dennis, that record Extraction from the early 2000s that I wore out with Dennis and Victor Wooten, and that's Greg's record.
It's Greg's record, yeah.
And so that'll be fun. And doing some more stuff with my band at the Baked Potato, hopefully. And
cool.
I want to make a record that's been on the slate for a long time. I need to make a solo record. Mm-hmm. And there's so many great musicians I know here in LA. It's just, it's the writing thing. I don't play another instrument.
You don't?
And so
interesting.
That's a great regret. Although my parents paid for the lessons and they wanted me to do it, encouraged me to do it, I was just like not interested. And later in life, it's one of those hard hurdles to overcome because you're
harder
good
than match grip at this point.
Yeah. You're good at one instrument and to be horrific at another, and then you got to battle through that. And also, which I guess is a defeatist attitude, but one could study piano for 10 years and still not be able to write anything good.
I wouldn't recommend that one for you.
Yeah. So I need to co-write with somebody, and
do you write, like, do you hear it in your head?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I can co-write with someone. I've done that before, and
that was probably the best thing I decided to do, and I got on it young, probably 15, 16 years old. I knew I needed to play a melodic instrument, and it was the best decision I made. It started out as flute, and there was always guitars in my house for whatever reason, but no one played. My uncle was a guitar player. He would leave them at my house. I couldn't figure it out. I found it so hard to play guitar, and then I remember my kid's sister had a toy guitar. It had buttons on it and had like 3 strings, and eventually it was down to 1 string. And for whatever reason, probably around 15 years old, I started fucking around with this thing on the one string and just getting some kind of dexterity in my fingers. And I'm like, maybe I could do this. And then I picked up probably the real guitar at some point and started, figuring out chords and whatnot. And then I had a knack for it. Best thing I ever did, because I always heard music. I always wanted to write, I had the poetry side down, right? And I could hear the songs in my head, and I'm like, well, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And it was the best thing I did. It's not too late, man, but I couldn't tell you what to pick up.
Right. I tried bass a couple times because I love that instrument.
A lot of the, like Thomas plays bass, and I think Virgil's a great pianist.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys play a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I think Weckl plays piano too.
He plays a little bass, I think.
He plays a little bass, yeah, something, yeah.
But, also nice to be able to sit down on your own and play some actual music. Whereas as a drummer, if you're like feeling like you want to practice, it's like it's boring to hear this one very limited element of music.
No, it's absurd.
No melody, no harmony, no emotion. You're like, it must be lovely to sit down at a piano and play something really sad. You know what I mean?
It is. It's amazing.
Have that,
it's amazing. And it's so complementary to the other instrument. Like, as a guitar player, there's just these inflections of my drumming, and vice versa, and it's interesting, and I wouldn't change that, and I just highly recommend it. I always tell people, just pick up something else, and even you don't have to get good, you just gotta figure out some kind of melodies. It's important. Well, I mean, let me know if you want a guitar lesson or something.
Maybe let's do that.
So you got more gigs coming up. You want to do a solo record?
The teaching side is always growing. I'm always adding content every month. And
do you enjoy teaching?
I do, yeah. I've grown to enjoy it. When I first started, I've been teaching for one-offs and private lessons since I was a teenager. But it really grew once I started doing the website. A year or so after I moved here, I started building the site, and this was early on before any of these things really existed. I think Drumeo was in its very early days, and Mike Johnston, of course, had his thing, but not many independent drummers had websites like that. So then I had to start. I had to learn how to build a website, how to film things, lighting, all that stuff. Sure. But also had to start transcribing my own playing, because the way I learned is, I never talked about stickings. I don't know what I was playing. I'm not interested in stickings.
I can't tell you what the hell I just did.
Yeah, so I had to start doing that, and that's interesting. It is good to transcribe a little bit, whether it's your own playing or someone else's, so you are a little bit familiar with some of the threads that hold different phrases together and stuff. So I'm always adding content, and I enjoy teaching the one-offs. Do you
enjoy teaching people at a certain level, or do you kind of?
Yeah, most of the students I have are intermediate upwards.
So you're an intermediate.
I haven't taught beginners for a long, long time. Yeah. Not that I've done it very occasionally, but
it just doesn't always make sense.
Yeah, but I enjoy teaching people that listen. It's so interesting. People's behavior. You get people that will drive 2 hours, pay you a lot of money, and not fucking listen to you. I can tell so quickly into a lesson that you're not listening. And they can't wait to interrupt with and it might be like, everyone's different. It might not be because they're actually like being rude or anything. It's like everyone has their own kind of insecurities or way of communicating or whatever. But those lessons are tough. Those are long.
They suck.
But when someone's listening and they're interested, and you can tell they're absorbing it, then it's really fun. That first lesson I had with Thomas Lang was supposed to be 2 hours. It was 4 because he was enjoying it. Because clearly I was interested, and then
he enjoys teaching. I know that from seeing him do it so many times. He actually is very good at it. Yeah. It's not for everyone. That's why I was asking. But no, it's definitely acquired taste. But it's cool, man, that you have the gift for it. So that's amazing, man.
And I like to pass on the stuff that I was taught, and the way I was taught. That's how I teach. I had all these one-offs with these great drummers. Some of them, more than one lesson, but. I went to them because I liked their playing. I didn't go to them because they're a famous teacher.
Yeah.
And so I was, already on board because I love their playing. Yeah. So whatever I go away with in this lesson is going to be great.
Yeah.
And the way they taught was very kind of relaxed, and it was based on experience. And so that's the way I teach. And when people are interested, I like passing on all those experiences and the things I learned and the kind of lineage of the type of drumming I'm interested in. And
sure. Because I would say if someone's seeking you out, they have a particular taste level.
Yeah.
Is anyone coming to you for you to show them the way of the traditional?
Sure.
Yeah.
Some people come for traditional kit, but most of those people play a little bit of both.
Of course.
I can't remember if I've ever had a student that was good and only played traditional.
Interesting.
So that's rare. Yeah.
Show me the way. Oh, man. All right. Well, let me ask you a couple general quick fire questions here. What would you say is a habit that you've implemented over the last couple of years or whenever that's kind of revolutionized your life?
A habit. Well, what we talked about earlier about exercising, and when I got super into tennis, that really changed my life. I lost weight and became healthier, started eating better because I'm burning so many calories, so I started learning about that. And so that was a change, a significant marker actually, when I think back to when I'm 22, 23, when I started that.
Okay.
And so that really changed my life. And it's a thing I carry through, not just because I enjoy playing tennis, but if I don't exercise every day, if I go, some days I'll of course have a rest day, but if I don't exercise for 2 or 3 days, I feel like shit, So that's a lot. Not a lot of musicians are onto that train of health, wellness, and how it makes you feel good and productive. And it's really like a before and after. If you're a person that had a bad diet or never exercised, and then you changed, it's a different thing. You look at life through a different lens. And then I don't know, in terms of a habit, maybe, people talk about this already, there are books written on it, but making your bed every day. I'm a very organized person. I like things, I can't stand existing in mess, mentally. And making your bed every day is a good habit because it just sets you up for the day.
It's military grade. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you're right though about the health stuff. I'm trying to carry the torch a little bit for drummers and musicians to kind of get their shit together a little bit more outside of the gig and take care of the body and the mind, because you ain't going to hold up, if you don't. What about a non-negotiable for you every day?
A non-negotiable. Doing something productive, I guess. That's a pretty generic answer, but if it's not either exercising, you got to feel like I put another, did you ever watch that documentary on Netflix, Jonah Smith did with his therapist?
I did not.
Anyway, the therapist talks about putting another pearl on the string, right? So every day, no matter what you feel like, if you feel like shit, you don't want to do it, just think visually about, you just got to put another pearl on the string, So if that's exercising and going to the gym and feeling like you're building, personally, you're building something and adding a little thing to that day, drumming, practicing, admin,
something
posting
productive.
A thing I should have been meaning to edit forever.
I
got to do something that makes me not feel like a piece of shit,
Fair enough.
And that I did something that day to forward the, you just got to try and get a little better every day, whether in whatever area it is. You got to pick at least one of them and do something,
Fair enough, my man. How would you say your relationship with failure is these days?
Well, I had some today.
Really?
Listening back to the gig I did the other day.
Really?
Yeah. It's a constant thing, isn't it? I was talking to my wife the other day and I'm like, it's interesting that going through this life, pursuing something as weird and isolated as music, right? And, practicing a musical instrument and then trying to survive in the music business, that I've done it without any drink and any drugs, because a lot of people do drink and drugs to get through it.
It's gnarly.
For all sorts of reasons. But one of the reasons is the constant, butting up against either failure or just complete disappointment at how you performed, or how that thing went, and you've been practicing and you're playing really well, and then you have a gig and it's the worst experience, and you got to deal with it though. It's you got to just kind of take a day to think, kind of sit in that and go, that was disappointing and I didn't play well, or I really got to work on this thing because it keeps happening, or whatever it might be, and then you just got to get back to work.
Yeah, especially when you're a seasoned player and you've been doing it for a while, and you could be really hard on yourself. I find that at the end of the day, the audience really doesn't know the difference, but that's never going to change the disappointment that you feel as the artist or the creator. But you have to get over that shit, right? You don't have a choice.
You got to deal with it. And a lot of people are actually, I feel like the listening to yourself as a musician constantly, although a lot of musicians actually don't record themselves enough. But if you are doing that, it really teaches you in life to take criticism. A lot of people, if you're criticizing them, if it's a partner or a friend or a family member, people get defensive very quickly because they're not used to analyzing their own behavior. They're not used to receiving criticism. Yeah. And, you know, my dad was my teacher, and he was not a hard teacher, but he was realistic and he was honest, and he would say, it's not right. You know, you're not doing that right. And you just got to suck it up. You know what I mean? And it will help you, because if you're used to that and you don't get upset by anything, then you can use that information to get better, you know?
It's also called being married, I think. But no, you're right. I mean, especially if you're in this space, I mean, constantly creating, constantly opening yourself up to this massive amount of criticism, self and from the outside. And you got to just be able to tuck that shit.
Yeah, and the comments that people leave on social media when celebrities talk about it, when they're really exposed to some bad stuff. Oh, yeah. But whatever it is, even if it's the meanest, you know, nastiest comment from someone who's clearly a weirdo, there might always be a little thread of truth to that. You know, and so you've got to accept that and just, it is what it is, you know.
We could go 3 hours on that. I mean, that's, you know, how much do you pay attention to that garbage? Or like you said, is there an element of truth in there? It could be. Right. It's very difficult. Yeah. It's very difficult. Even like, you know, people at our level, you open yourselves up to stuff like that all the time. And it's like, what can you imagine if you really had like millions of people with eyeballs on you? Yeah. I feel bad. Yeah. It's rough. I mean, like you could go to any celebrity's page, right? Could be the most clean cut person, right? And you can just take the top 5 comments and they're getting fucking ripped. Right. Right. These people don't know who they are, what they know. You don't know the person, you know, just everybody's doing a job. Right. It's a gift and a curse that we have that kind of society now and this open highway of communication.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. Last one for you. Throw me a book that you think everybody should read.
I'm not much of a reader, and it's something I've been, you know, my mum is always like, she reads a lot. No. I mean, I've read some books. Obviously, I'm not like a moron. But it's something in adult life that I don't do enough. Yeah. But a book that stayed with me my whole life that I read in my maybe late teens, I guess. I don't really know why I'm saying this, but it's just a book that stayed with me. It was written by Christopher Reeve.
Superman.
Who had that horrific accident.
Yeah.
And I think it's a book that everyone should read, because it's like, I think about it on a kind of probably a monthly basis. It pops into my head. Incredible, dude. Incredible story. And it's an unbelievable book to just teach you, you know, some gratitude, because, you know, what he went through. I was a Superman fan to the max when I was young. Absolutely loved it. And so that's partly why I read it. But anyway, there's this passage in the book where he's in the hospital. They don't know if he's going to die or not. He realizes how bad it is. Yeah. And he goes through that period of thinking, I want to die. Please kill me. I want to die. Yeah. And he has this whole discussion with his wife. And this is obviously a long thing in the book, but in summary, she just says, but you know, you're still you. And so the book is called Still Me. And so it's about how he battles with that thing of accepting that, you know, there's more to life than just his physical body. Yes. And it's just an incredible book, and I think about it a lot, and it's just amazing. They did a movie on it. Yeah. Maybe you saw it. Yeah. I did see that, and I remember that they glance over this particular moment, and I thought it was beautiful the way they did it in the film, but I can only imagine that in the book it really, really hits. Yeah. That's cool, man. I'm going to check that out. Yeah, it's a great book. Like, and the wife, like the way they stuck by him, and like, it's just an amazing, the whole story is amazing. Fucking incredible. Yeah. Yeah. And then moving. Yeah, totally. And the other good book that I think about often is the Andre Agassi autobiography. Okay. Which, whether you're into tennis or not, is a great book. It's beautifully written. It's one of the best autobiographies. A lot of people talk about that. He had obviously a ghostwriter, but sure. That guy's known for writing great autobiographies, and his story is also interesting, and that's just a great book, whether you're into tennis or not. Love it, man. Yeah. Awesome, dude. I had a blast. Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me. Yeah, no, this is fun, man. Yeah.
so many similarities, and like I think we have a lot that we share musically and outside of the fucking gig as well.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, how to reach you, whatever.
Well, you can go to my online school if you're into lessons, playbetterdrums.com, and my website, Louie Palmer. That's also linked to the school. Instagram is at Louie Palmer Drums. That's the same for YouTube. And, you can reach out messages. I answer lots of messages.
Cool.
If you've got questions. And, yeah.
Thanks, Louie.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
A real pleasure.
Yeah.
Louie Palmer, everybody. And key takeaway, don't play traditional grip if you're considering it. But no, Louie Palmer, absolute monster. Love you, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on.